So you are not dreaming. This is yet another Chris Brogan production. This is the Modern Business Show. This will have theme music and all that kind of stuff, but I decided I needed a show for Owner Media Group where we could talk about modern business. And my co-host for this show is going to be Rob Hatch. We're going to talk about today the new better, not the new normal. And are you rebuilding your business to be even better than it was before, or what's going to happen going forward? So, Rob, good to see you.
Hey, man, how are you? Good to see you as well.
Thanks for being on the show.
Happy to be here.
You have been. Can you hand me one of your books? Do you have one of your books handy or something like that?
Yeah, okay. I do. Right there.
Thanks. So now I got one. So thanks. That would have been an awesome bit if we'd practiced it, but you just finished becoming a top level #1 bestseller for Attention. I'm always trying to get this squared away. And it's a book about kind of how to do your business and how to work it better and all that. And I thought, as we're launching Modern Business Show and before we start dragging in guests and all that sort of thing, I wanted to talk about some of the lessons from the book and as they apply to this. And you had a really great theme. I wanted to hear your take on the sort of topic that you came up with for our show today.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having me here. And this is going to be fun. I'm excited about doing this. The thing that we were talking about is the beginning of the book really outlines kind of the problem that we're all facing, all the endless distractions and what we subject ourselves to. And in the second part of the book, we start to think about different simple decisions that we can do to kind of reclaim that and eliminate some of those distractions, minimize decisions. But the whole point of this, or that's the big question, what is it that we're minimizing all these distractions for? Where do we want to put our time? Where do we want to put our energy? And in the third part of the book, I start talking about the systems that we can put in place, but the purpose of those systems is to grow your business, right? It's to do this better, it's to figure out how to make, running a business, growing a business better.
So one of the reasons that we need to forget those distractions and kind of remember what matters and all that sort of stuff is because otherwise someone would think, that we weren't remembering something important about his life. And so it's Rob Hatch's birthday today. And he thought I forgot, but I didn't. But Don Stanley went out and went, happy birthday, Rob. So now I have to give up. I was going to do this the whole day.
Thanks, Don.
So Rob Hatch's birthday today. So it's, one great way. One day, cbrogan.me/attention. You could buy the book. That would be a nice gift for Rob. I bought the book, but I haven't had a chance to dig in yet. It sounds like I need to open up ASAP. Yeah, well, Don, think about this as the example that Rob just said. Rob says, why are we doing any of this? Why rebuild and try to get back to the new normal? We've both agreed we want the new better. That means that we have to really rethink all of the stuff we're doing. And I loathe giving any credit to Simon Sinek and start with why. It has to be it's a real question right now. Why would you bother trying to do what you already had? Why wouldn't you try to make the best life you could possibly make? And as we're going to start doing a lot more working remotely for a lot of different businesses and all that, what do you think where do they start once they agree? Once they agree with your premise, where do they start?
They start by identifying what they want their life to look like, like even in small chunks. And whether it's when you wake up in the morning, that space between the minute you open your eyes until the time you start working, you get to shape that time, right? You get to shape how you want to work, how you want to interact with your family, how you get to do that. So figuring out what you want that to look like, and then setting up little simple either systems or just having rules. Like, I'm not going to check my phone first thing in the morning, because what a horrible way to wake up, to whatever's going on, whether it's news or just scrolling through Facebook or checking email because we think we're preparing for the day. That's not how I want to start my day. I really want to, have a quiet half an hour of time, or I want to take time to cook breakfast. I might want to listen to some music, whatever it is. But so that's where you start, is figuring out what you want it to look like. What do you want the day to look like? How do you want to allocate your time for the things that actually matter to you? So yeah, I mean, you can give credit to Simon for that idea of start with why. It's really about figuring out what it is that we most want, right? What result are we after a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? I talked about that yesterday in the newsletter, that it was 3 years ago that I said, I want to write a book by the time I'm 50 and publish a book. And, that's a pretty far timetable to look out to, 3 years. We don't often look that far out, but, actually it was done pretty much within, a year and a half, but the delays of COVID, it happens.
Did you, in the process of thinking this through, I mean, obviously this book was written before this pandemic happened. Yeah. Did you see it right away? Did you immediately say, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to sound like that guy or anything like that, but my book is kind of an important tome all of a sudden, because everyone watching right now, you're thinking, oh man, there's all this stuff going on. Don says, I haven't really found the time. Well, who hasn't found the time are people who don't have systems and people who don't. I mean, not that Rob's book is the thing you're supposed to drop everything for, but right. If you know why and decide why and kind of aim towards, well, I'm going to work on making this better. If Rob's book fits into that, that's what you're supposed to do. I guess my question out of that is, do you notice or know right away, like this book is the instruction manual for resetting yourself into what you need it to be?
Absolutely. Well, yes, immediately. And I didn't want to sound like that guy, but it is, I honestly believe it's true. And I felt that way before the pandemic hit, because we were so busy, and we were busy in very different ways. We didn't have the space to even reflect on, because we were moving from moment to moment, going to work, and all of the things that were normal. This hit, and the cool thing about it is I think that it forced is a bit of reflection, and there is a reprioritization that's going on right now about how we want to spend our time, and I think that's where the book slides in as well, because I do encourage a lot of that reflection. Like, if you can find just a little space in between some notification and deciding what you're going to do, or if you decide ahead of time, these are my rules. I'm not going to react in this way. I don't need to be in this, in this place, or I don't need to respond to this sort of thing, because that's just it doesn't align with my life, my business, my goals. So I think the same is true, honestly, when we're thinking about growing our business. I mean, that's the purpose, to figure out what we want to do. On the flip side of this is thinking, how overwhelmed or distracted are our customers?
Right.
And as people come to a website, your website, how clear is it that you serve them right away? And I talk about this with clients all the time, this idea of get the nod. When they read the first line of your website, they should be just at least going like this. I feel this, nod, scroll down to the next thing, nod. And if you're getting the nod, and it doesn't take much, then you're moving them through, and you get to create, help them through that journey and say, this is the way that I want you to go. I want you to agree with this. If this is you, if it's not, go away. But if it's you, get the nod, move them to the next thing, do this thing, click this button, because, that's what I want. That's how I can help you. And we get to help them.
So I want to share, just as a random example about that. I'm reworking my website right now, and I'm doing what you're never supposed to do, not do it live and in person. You know what I mean? Like, it's live right now. This is my site. So you can see it's really stripped down, and it kind of focuses heavy on the work I'm doing on Backpack Show. And it just says Chris Brogan Media Digital Presence. My little hero text now says, a great digital presence is no longer optional. And it goes right into who I am. Chris Brogan has nearly 2 decades experience as an industry leader in helping people in companies large and small be more effective at a distance. Now that sales and leadership and marketing are often conducted online, almost as much or more than in-person meetings, a strong digital presence is no longer optional. There I am in one paragraph right after the title saying it again. Yes. So what is this? It matters. How you show up and how you interact matters. And then a little bit about me. In between these two, I'll add the buttons to where people want to go. They can understand how they're going to buy it. Would you say that that's a reasonably not bad version of trying to say this is exactly what I sell? And you're welcome to disagree, even though we work together.
Well, the headline right away is the nod, right? A great digital presence is no longer optional. It's declarative on your side, and you can immediately get an agreement, because people are like, "Yeah, I get it." It's not, some odd word or phrase. Digital presence is a really clear thing.
Are you saying I've done that in the past, Rob?
I don't know what you're talking about.
We're gonna tell you. We still got to sell some more of that owner's heart, by the way.
but you got the nod, right? And then you give a little explanation, and then you hit them with digital presence again to kind of just describe what that means. And I like that. You might, I guess the question becomes, in that paragraph, do you need to talk about you, or do you need to continue to talk about them? That's the question I would encourage you to ask in the paragraph after this is no longer optional. Keeping them nodding by saying,
this is about you. You're going through
this
your
is about
journey.
you.
Yeah. Very good feedback. I'll just fix it right now while we're doing what we're
Cool.
doing. Businesses are scrambling around trying to figure out how they're going to do what they're going to do. And you and I are both small town guys. We see this in like the local pizza place or wherever you go. I mean, you probably don't buy a lot of pizza anymore, but the local places where you consider to go and get some food out when you're sick to death of cooking, you're looking at contactless drop off. You're looking at like the way you get your groceries at Hannaford is different. It's probably at the curb now. There's all these things that have changed. How do you align with, how do you align that with the way people should be doing this in their own lives as well? How do they think about the systems of in a contactless world? Now what?
Well, for me, the first part of this was setting up systems for when I enter the contactless world. What am I looking for? And in the decision fatigue that we are all facing, the added pressure now is this: every interaction we have to consider health and safety of ourselves and other people, right? I have to think about, do I send my child to school for their social well-being and mental health, or do I keep them home because I'm worried about their physical health? We've never had to balance this much before. But when I'm entering the world like that, I'm looking for cues that are going to tell me that this is taken care of, that you're meeting my needs, and I'm going into the world kind of prepared with systems as well to make things easier and keep myself safe. So cool. That's really important.
Brother Raul wishes you happy birthday as well.
Hey, Raul. Great to see you.
And your phone is busy. You're a busy man,
Apparently.
Rob Hatch.
Apparently.
Yeah. So when I've started doing some work with clients, I mean, I just got a client that it's a weird story in some ways, because they signed off on something that I priced it such that I thought they couldn't say yes. And then they went, okay. And I was like, well, all right then. And it's not even lots of money, but it's just like what little they wanted me to do, I charged as if I was running their company for them. And they were like, fine. And I was like, okay, well, but what they said was what I'm realizing, what you're saying too, is that, what we least can do is try to act normal, try to act like nothing happened, try to act like, it's just Friday. And I think that's a detrimental. I think it sets the worst communications note ever in the history of business doing. And I think it also means it's almost a declarative statement if you try to act like nothing's happening.
And try to get back to, because you think that people are so craving what felt like normal before. They want to get back to that. There's certain things that we want to get back to. We want to hug our friends. We want to be able to be close to them and be with our family at holiday celebrations. All of that is trickier. There's certain things we want to return to, but I'm seeing people talking about not going back to the harried nature of life the way it was before. I have some good friends in town or in Portland who run a restaurant, and they're a catering company, and they were out straight. I mean, all the time. And this was a real wake-up call to say, I think I want to rebuild the business so that I don't have to go back to that craziness. I definitely miss the income, but was it worth it for the way my life was, operating? And that's right. That moment of pause right now that I'm so excited about, because what comes after that? What is better? We get to choose. We don't have to be, responding to whatever, someone says we think, they think we should have or need. We get to craft this.
It's
craft our business.
And craft our business for sure. I mean, I've seen occasional things that make me want to make a little series of ads, like I really miss commutes, and then make the ad about you really don't. I miss so much speaking on a big stage in front of people. That one's for sure. I do love conferences, and I love seeing people, and it's going to be so weird to hug people. I just got to chill in my whole body thinking about that act of hugging, which I love to do at conferences. because I'm like, oh, hello, plague. I've avoided you for a year for nothing, you know, and then I get the disease. But I miss conferences. You know what I don't miss? Airplanes. I don't miss
Right.
flying at all. I hate the mechanics of flying. The getting up and down in the air part's not so bad. It's the smelly people. It's the waiting in line for everyone to disembark because no one considers everyone. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. Well, and there's packing and prepping and getting there and all that sort of time lost. And yeah, you can kind of thread in some work maybe along the way in quiet moments, but it's not the kind of focused work that you want to do. And jumping from thing to thing. Yeah. But yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I know that you feed off that energy, and I always loved when you came back off the road, because I was like, there's going to be some great ideas coming out, and we're going to have a lot of fun.
We'd get on the phone and I would hear the flap of your notebook hitting the table as you knew I was going to have to download a bunch of files.
Yeah. It's always fun to do that because people, people are giving you that energy, and being able to riff with people is really fun.
I'm with you. So Raul says, by the way, I think a lot of people are using escapism. It's a confusion of what being positive means. Phil Gerbishak shared a message the other day talking about how being positive is also about taking care of our loved ones in our community and not trying to block out the reality. I definitely think that localism matters a lot.
Agreed. And I, there's in terms of blocking out reality, there is this place between staying informed and understanding what's going on,
right,
and subjecting yourself to that negativity constantly when it won't change or impact your actions on a daily basis. So I limit the news and the feed that comes in, or I go to it very deliberately rather than letting it wash over me, because that washover does not feel good. But there are times when I want to know what happened. And then I really want to think about, how does this impact whatever decision I'm going to make or action I'm going to take? Am I going to pick up the phone and call my senator and advocate for something? Sometimes, but oftentimes I'm already in that camp, and I don't need to just be beaten down by that sort of news. I think there's a balance there, right? But yeah, I agree. You can't block it out and pretend it's not happening.
Right.
It's about where can I have the greatest impact? And I think you were talking about localism is really, really a big one. We had an incident in our town. Oh, go ahead.
Did you? Oh, I was just going to say, LGO keeps saying, I keep saying, when life goes back to normal is the normal. I'm going back to the life I want. Am I going back to the life I want? And the answer is no.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go back to the life I want. I want to go forward to the life I want. Right. That's what this is. And thinking, my kids and I talk about this quite often. Whether, particularly when it comes to career choices, they're in college, and they're trying to figure out their path and what they're going to do. Part of that is letting them know that it's okay to live a very simple existence. The choices that are afforded you by living a very simple existence, you can play around a lot more than if you're trying to acquire a lot of things. Then you've got to keep working to feed those things. But if you can keep things kind of minimal, keep your needs kind of minimal, and shoot for your career goals, it's such freedom.
It really is. I was granted the gift of losing all my business pretty much at the very beginning of the pandemic. Like, I'm almost always in someone's experimental budget, and things weren't exactly the best right before it. But one of the things that I pulled into my own business was just the fact of, well, do I want to do this kind of a thing anymore? No. Do I want to do this kind of thing anymore? And I had been kind of running around in that Seinfeld movie phone episode where Kramer's like, well, why don't you just ask the movie what and see what would happen? And I got the chance, kind of by force, to rebuild that and build exactly the business I want to have. And it's got to grow at the speed of any business growing. So, you got to do all the little stuff, but it's there. Lee says, by the way, it is a huge gift in this painful break. So many systems and assumptions and patterns we've made are broken. We can really reimagine. So yeah,
and that's what I'm finding now is people really appreciating that. And again, not wanting to rush back to a busy office. Like, what was really being accomplished in the 8 hours you spent there, let alone the half hour or an hour each way, can be done in new and different ways. The biggest struggle, we've talked about this too, is leaders who aren't used to managing to results, I think is a big issue. And we're going to see that. And people will fall off if those who can figure that out are going to do well. But that's a real issue. I think, micromanaging, leaders are really going to struggle in this environment and have struggled. And I think they're going to have to figure it out. There's so much more to accommodate. I mean, because your employees are both teaching school, working, and managing just interruptions of kids and time, and it's a whole new ballgame.
A whole new world.
And it's not as simple as working remotely. That's the other thing. People were working remotely, and you can set up systems for that. We've never had to work remotely with teaching kids around you as well, and having a spouse who's also working remotely, and that's a whole. This is a little bit different, and I think we'll come out of that, eventually for sure.
Yep.
But
well, think about this one, Rob. His and her offices, or his and his offices, two adult unit people's offices in a house was not ever something you ever saw in a real estate. You never said, and this is this office and this is that office. And there's I'm not assuming any particular, this isn't a gender comment. This is only one person in the household usually had to do that kind of remote work, or had the option to do that kind of remote work, and someone else had to do it in a different way. Now, someone might have a workshop and someone might have a this or whatever, but like full-fledged work on your business kind of space, people had to re-engineer their homes. And a lot of people don't live exactly in a mansion where they can go to the third wing and reopen great-grandmother's old bedroom and turn it into something. So it's a challenge.
And you're right that I remember one of the calls that we did early on, the insider Q&A calls that we do, the monthly insider Q&A calls.
Yeah.
Someone had mentioned, everyone was trying to make people feel welcome and kind of get chatty for the first few minutes of the meeting. And how's everyone doing? How are you handling this? Really trying to be personable. And this person reflected and basically said, you have no idea what I had to do to make sure that I had the time to be here right now. Can we just get to the point? Because my wife had to stop her work. My two kids had to, be entertained. We had to figure that out. So she's in charge of them while I'm here in this meeting. And I had to find a place that was reasonably quiet and had good bandwidth in my house. So let's skip all the pleasantries and just get to the point.
You would never think that that's how people would think about it. And when we heard that,
that was really eye-opening for me.
Huge. I've never not thought about that since that moment. And it impacts how I make the shows. It impacts how I do the thing. I mean, it's not my third show up and live, not counting the other two I've already discarded. So I want to really honor people's time. If I'm going to take your time to come and sit and watch part of a live with us, then they're going to have to go, okay, I feel like I took something from that. I mean, we're just kind of getting a feel for what the Modern Business Show is going to look like. We want to, kind of push the buttons, see what it's like to co-host, even though we've done lots of events. But I like that we started it with this episode. I like that this is an opportunity to say, okay, look, if you want to think about your business in different ways, and if you want to look at what the future of business is going to be like, it sure isn't going and grabbing from the past over and over again. It's going to be about this. So we're not. So
what do you think about when you say the modern business? What picture do you have in your mind? Who are you thinking of?
It's always. I mean, which types of companies? I'll tell you what I almost always think about are things like hardware stores. And I think about Main Street USA kind of businesses. And I did a project in Canada, which, practically USA. And in that project, it was basically like we had to get like sub shops and whatnot. And we have a point. The point's just, this is the set of the thing. Raul's saying we're not really to the point. We're going to be more pointy in the future ones. I think that I always look at does a haircuttery benefit from our business? It's always small and mid-sized businesses at Owner Media Group. I work with big companies too. Right. But what I think about when I think about those companies are, I get to watch it in my town. This little restaurant was just about ready to open and COVID hit. And of course they're shut. And he'd sunk a lot of money into the rehab of the building and the space, and suddenly no revenue to offset that. So all his bills, all his loans, he's like going to banks going, hey, so
Yeah.
he had to launch something. So we finally get the nod for curbside. And I thought, what's he going to do? Well, this guy didn't need my help. But, just like I used to talk so much about Mick Gillespie, the comic book store guy, and what he would do to get my attention, this guy, Sean Hopkins, he's got Hoppy's Cantina, and he does Facebook Lives where he'll make the guac while he's talking to you. Hey, you guys want to come in? It's a good day for it. I mean, fresh guac. He tips the kid, Facebook Live. He just flips the guac right towards his, and you're like, oh, I need that. And he had he was doing these pork belly bites or whatever, and they're about a 1-inch cube of like pork meat, pork fat, pork, Raul, cover your ears, and glazed and barbecued and smoked, it has all these flavors. And when he showed them, I stopped what I was doing. I changed my plans for the lunch I had already made for myself that I had already paid for, looked at the budget and said, I can do this without feeling awfully bad. And hopefully I get another client. And I bought some. And when I was there, he was selling tequila because I guess there's a little break in the rules right now that you could carry it out or something like that.
Right.
So I had a margarita that I normally could never have bought. And it was brilliant. And how did that happen, Rob? It happened because this guy was doing modern business by using Facebook as his ad. And he pulled me out of what I was going to do. I'm not even a Facebook visitor anymore, but Facebook loves to show you alive. Right. I was like, I'm in. So that's modern.
That's
business.
really cool. And a good example, I think, Mick was part of that as well in the early days. And now that's a great example. It's a great example.
So I think that as we go along, I mean, a lot of our friends run small/solo businesses. They run consulting and coaching type businesses. We both run coaching type businesses as well. So as this show progresses, that's who gets the tips and tricks. We're going to talk email marketing. We're going to talk mechanics. It's stuff I don't cover on any of my other shows. And bringing Rob means that you get great leadership advice. You get all the stuff that he's just sort of living and breathing because of his dumb book on his birthday. And you're going to learn all kinds of things about, how do we set up email sequences and all that kind of stuff that other people are talking about in a very different way. Because if you watched this episode, then you get a real sense of where we're going with the future episodes. That's all I could say. I didn't make any music yet. I'm still working on the songs. It's going to be something crazy, but I don't have it. So I'm just going to push a little card button and I'm going to push an end button and we're going to get the hell out of here. So thanks, Rob. Thanks for being part of the show.
Thanks, man.
So glad to be here. Chloe says, I am so excited for this. So here, how many shows do I have? 3 and counting. I have a 4th one. Get ready to go. So here's this. I'm going to do this and I'm going to push this